Hi there, Jim Schaefer. We've been studying biblical one-page briefs. It's a overview, synopsis, macro look at what the Bible's all about. You know, much has been written about the Bible in great volumes. It's the best-selling book in the history of mankind. But when you start studying it for the first time, when you really get interested in your God creator, you kind of ask the question, where do I go? It's very common for people to say, start by reading the book of John, and you won't go wrong doing something like that. But as you expand that, you'll be led to this place and that place. What's really fun is when you get to the point where you can start reading the Old Testament with interest, because it's the historical aspect of the scripture. And it really gets into the formulation of God's plan, how He created everything, and how we need to have rules and regulations to get along in society. In case you haven't noticed, mankind has a kind of a history of a lot of wars. You might notice that. God says we're supposed to love one another, but apparently we don't. So anyway, as you read through the Bible, you get God's perspective on what has happened and what's going to happen. So it's a book that takes up three dimensions. One is the history, where we came from. Two is the present, what do we need to do based on the history that we've learned. And three, what has to take place. The Bible calls that prophecy. And that's, to me, the most fascinating portion of Scripture. It's fascinating because we have instances in the historic elements of Scripture where God said, this is going to happen in 400 years. This is going to happen in 373 years. This is going to happen in 3 days. And all those things transpired. We have history to prove that. And so when God said, there's another 7-year period that has to take place, it's good to learn out what that 7-year period is. The book, Biblical One-Page Briefs, which we're heralding and developing our text out of, is set up with 100 topics. And there's 3 volumes of these topics. If you read one of these topics each day for the rest of the year or the next year, you could start over again, you wouldn't remember them. So there's plenty of information here on getting into the scripture, and then you can dance from that over into other areas that catch your interest, or follow the fellowship that you're involved in from your pastor teaching a series on a book of the Bible. I'm going through a study in my church right now in the book of Daniel. I love the book of Daniel, and I love the person of Daniel. Can't wait to meet him someday. But it shows God's involvement in the society at the time, and personally in this guy's life. It's pretty fascinating. Today we're going to be talking about an experience, or I should say a scripture that Paul, the Apostle Paul, wrote to the Christians in Rome. They entitled the book Romans, whatever. But Romans, I heard a message on Romans 12 on Sunday that I thought I'd kind of share my thoughts on what it was all about. So I had to get home and write a brief, if you will. That's what I came up with. I entitled it Thinking of Others. You know, one of the real stresses and struggles in my life is how much time I spend on myself. And I just think, you know, the Bible's all about thinking about others. One of the things we spend a lot of time on in the United States is prosperity. How can I get more prosperity? How can I have more funds to play with so I can take 3 cruises next year? Stuff like that. But what the Bible encourages us is to be thinking of others, and that's what Romans 12 is about. Let's see how it sounds to you. This is my latest brief. As a human, I can think of nothing more difficult than not being taken care of, pleasured, or sustained. Try losing your job, or chronic illness, or new surroundings. Romans 12 completely reverses perspective. A significant portion deals with the gifts we are given to share in the Spirit, and if we focus solely on that portion, we'd be blessed until our finish. Again, we are formed in a trilogy, as in the Trinity and the church. Ours is body, soul, and spirit, described in 1 Thessalonians 5. This morning I was blessed with a presentation on Romans 12. Paul begins under inspiration by encouraging personal sacrifice. Is this your mantra? Do you consider thoughts and actions in vocation, marriage, or family as a living sacrifice? I'm getting there, but it's been an eight-decade trip of not. He encourages us not to think more highly of ourselves than we ought to. In verses 9 through 21, Paul submits an entire list of actions to guide us. Let me share some of those with you, just so you can remember. You can always go back to Romans 12 and look them up again. But here's what he says. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope. Patient in affliction. Faithful in prayer. Share with God's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Those are some of the guidelines that Paul wrote down in these verses in chapter 12, 9 through 21. Come on, folks. Crack a smile. Oh, here, I'll start over again. None of them are self-serving. How about contribute, rejoice, bless people, live in harmony, live peaceably, and a few more. Come on, folks. Crack a smile. Forgive, share, support, and don't be overcome by evil. Living sacrifice is an action item, not a thought process. It's a potential way of life. It's attitude in action. It's the Christian perspective. It's God working with us. Remember his son? In conclusion, we're admonished to live peaceably. That's not easy for me as an old head-butting footballer. I miss the conflict of clearing out space for the runners seeking potential scores. I find that my fellow Christians operating at their level of knowledge and understanding just love getting into conflicts. My job is to seek peace now. Now, even if I'm not right, my job is to seek peace now, even if I'm right, and discernment when I'm not. So enjoy Romans 12. Take notes and set goals for your spiritual goals and be blessed. You have people close to you who need to be blessed more. Do you want to be blessed? Romans 12 is one of Paul's roadmaps for that journey. It's my understanding it's worth the trip. Anyway, that's our thought for today. It's Romans 12, and that's what the briefs are intended to do. They're intended to take you into the Scripture and give you an overview, a macro view of what the Bible has to say about that particular topic. And then you can study further and look into the Bible and see what you get out of it by going into greater depth. Thank you.